Greetings, human intellects of this world. Our journey stops at a point where we will encounter a human whose intellect shaped substantially your evolution of thought regarding your science of mathematics and your philosophical reflections on the relation between your mind, your body, and the knowledge of your world. His writings influenced to a great degree your conceptual abilities to investigate your very world's behavior. His name is Rene Descartes. Francis Bacon and Descartes both believed that the pinnacle of scientific success is a pyramid of propositions with the broadest principles at the top. However, Descartes aimed to start at the top and proceed as far below as possible through a deductive procedure, in contrast to Bacon, who tried to establish general principles via progressive inductive ascent from the base of less general relations. Descartes required certainty for the general principles at the top of the pyramid. In order to satisfy this demand for certainty, he began to systematically cast doubt on every judgment that he had previously taken for granted, in order to determine which conclusions were undoubtedly true. He came to the conclusion that some of his judgments were indeed irrefutable. Cogito, ergo sum, which translates as I think, therefore I am, or exist, is the first judgment. Namely, that he must exist inasmuch as he thinks. And the reason for this is because you would end yourself in contradiction if you would try to refute the conclusion, while at the same time thinking of it. You think, and the act of thinking itself ensures your existence as a thinking thing. Now, the existence of a perfect being is the other certainty to which he came via his reasoning. A benevolent God who guarantees that what is clearly and distinctly present to the mind is true. Then, Descartes shifted his focus to the created cosmos after establishing his own existence as a thinking thing, and the existence of a benevolent God who guarantees that what is clearly and distinctly apparent to the mind is true. So, given that he thought that what is clear and distinct to the mind is true, he looked to what is distinct and clear about physical objects in order to find what is true about them. He stated in reference to the melting of a lump of wax that, while I speak, and approach the fire, what remained of the taste is exhaled, the smell evaporates, the color alters, the figure is destroyed. The size increases, it becomes liquid. It heats. Scarcely can one handle it, and when one strikes it, no sound is emitted. Does the same wax remain after this change? We must confess that it remains. None would judge otherwise. What then did I know, so distinctly in this piece of wax? It could certainly be nothing of all that the senses brought to my notice, since all these things which fall under taste, smell, sight, touch, and hearing, are found to be changed, and yet the same wax remains. Abstracting from all that does not belong to the wax, let us see what remains. Certainly nothing remains excepting a certain extended thing which is flexible and movable. But how can you know about this extension that makes up the wax piece's essence? According to Descartes, your intuition about extension, the real nature of the wax, comes from your intellect, or the thing you call mind. The succession of appearances that the wax provides to your senses must be differentiated from this intuition of the mind. Descartes came to the conclusion that to be a body is to be extended, since extension is the only quality of bodies of which you have a clear and distinct idea. Numerous inferences may be drawn from this. For instance, no vacuum can exist. According to Descartes, extension meant being filled by matter, and came to the conclusion that the phrase extension devoid of all matter is contradictory. From his knowledge of extension, Descartes went on to develop other significant physical laws, including the one about the inexistence of vacuum, which is located at the top of the pyramid. He seemed to think that because the ideas of extension and motion are distinct and clear so as to understand, you can draw certain general conclusions about them without having to utilize your sense organs and observation. They can only be obtained by pure thought alone. They are a priori truths. One such generalization is that all motion is caused by pressure or impact. A particular body is always in contact with other bodies, since there can be no such thing as a vacuum. His reasoning led him to believe that a body can only be moved if the nearby bodies on one side exert more pressure than the other nearby bodies that surround it. He eliminated the possibility of action at a distance by limiting the causes of motion to collision and pressure. A wholly mechanical theory of causality. The notion of extension led to the development of another significant physical principle for Descartes. That is, that all motion is a cyclical rearrangement of bodies. Descartes argued that in order to avoid a vacuum, other bodies must simultaneously move if one body changes its position. In addition, the only way a finite number of bodies may change places without leaving a vacuum is by traveling in a closed loop, as shown by Descartes through his illustrations. From this general principle of motion, Descartes derived three more laws of motion. Law number 1. Bodies at rest stay at rest, and bodies in motion remain in motion until moved on by another body. Law number 2. Inertial motion is a straight line motion. Law number 3a. When a moving object collides with another object, the first object changes direction without losing any of its motion because the second object has more force against motion than the first object does. Law number 3b. If the first body exerts more force than the second body can resist, the first body will drag the second along with it and lose as much motion as it gives up to the second. Descartes asserted that his scientific laws were the logical conclusions of his philosophical principles. He has made an effort to extract broad principles, or generalizations, from certain truths that are already present in your intellects. Unfortunately, however, Descartes' interpretations frequently did not match the facts, yet his idea of the cosmos nevertheless held a lot of appeal. It gave proper consideration to both the need for certainty and the understanding of the complexity of phenomena. The general laws of nature were apparently logical consequences of necessary truths that each human with deductive reasoning capacities must accept. And this certainty, or necessity to accept those deductive chains that each general principle, or law, is derived by the very first basic and fundamental principles upon which your entire theory of the cosmos is based, but human. Even the smallest fracture in those very first foundations can cause the theories about your reality to completely crumble and collapse. A lesson that your world has forced you to accept during your evolution of thought in order for you to survive and adapt.